What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So welcome to this week's slate of episodes. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP. So I have one with Dr. Hollis, so 30-year Navy veteran. It's great interview, so definitely check that one out. And then Fridays, everything else, so movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from nextgov.com, and the title of this, written by, Natalie Alms. Got to give Natalie her credit. And the title of this one is White House Cyber Czar Launches New Hiring Sprints, right? So what they're talking about here is the federal government, for the occupational series of IT jobs, which as a civil servant, it's a 2210, I believe is the series, the occupational series that they use. I've worked with several of them. I've heard it said multiple times, 2210. But what they're doing is a hiring sprint, right? So right now they recognize what is going on in the world, right? So the numbers vary about how many cyber jobs are actually out there. I mean, I've heard 1 million. I heard somebody say to me one time 2 million. I was like, that seems a little high, right? But in the article they referenced 470,000, which seems about right? So what they're doing is to wrap up the fiscal year, right? Which the fiscal year in September 30th for the government. What they're trying to do is they're trying to opened up 3,000 positions, and they're trying to get people in there, right? So again, they recognize what's going on in the world, right? They recognize that in this ever-changing technology field, cybersecurity is something that is becoming very much a need, right? So the White House Cyber Office, they released a workforce-specific strategy last year, right? Because we've talked about this current administration and how they've had a focus on it. Not to say it hasn't been the case. There hasn't been some focus on IT and cyber in administrations past, but in this one, they are putting a lot of money, like billions in the B's, into, cybersecurity, addressing hiring shortfalls and things of that nature. And that's what they're doing here, right? So that number, I'd like for it to be a little more, but as I think about it, I'm like, well, it's the government, right? So like these people are being paid based off your taxes, right? And I start thinking to myself, well, do I want to pay more in taxes? Like to get more people on board? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'd like some more help, but I mean, it's something that they're trying to address, right? So, and for them, it's going to be a little hard, right? Because with the ever-changing landscape, like I talked about, like when you hire people that are like contractors to do these jobs, like they're paid pretty well. They're paid pretty good. So to have civil servants keep up with that, I mean, good on them. I mean, they're better people than me because I know what they get paid because it's readily accessible. You can just Google it and see, the GS scale, or they have an NH scale that they do now as well, which is like a pay range. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you look at it, you're like, ooh, like you're doing what I do for that much? Like, okay, I mean, good on you. You're a patriot. You know what I mean? You're a patriot. I'm a consumer of this world, so I need a little bit more money. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they're standing behind their word still, right? Like all the way up to the end of this current administration, right? Knowing that it's coming to an end. They're still like, hey, we realize cybersecurity is something that's needed, and we're trying to fill the spot with 3,000 members. But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, a good preface to this article. I think Natalie Alms did a good job. I like the name of the site, NextGov, because hopefully the next one is better than this current one. But I'm kidding. I joke around. But in all seriousness, though, man, I don't know. I see something like this, and in the back of my mind, I want to be positive, guys. I really do. I always want to be like positive, and I hate being like the negative guy of the group. But when I see 3,000 jobs before the end of the fiscal year, we've all been in the government. We've all worked for the military. What does that sound like to you? It's like, oh, we got an excess of money. Let's buy chairs. Like we've all been in the offices. We're like, if we don't spend it, they're gonna shorten our budget. So we gotta buy chairs. We gotta buy desks now. Just spend it. So it's the same, or we need more. And looking at this,
you're spilling secrets. You're taking people too far behind the curtain.
Man, that is.
Too far behind.
This is like not even like a state secret. Like this. You can Google this and find out. This is government, private industry. This happens way too much. And you kind of hit the nail on the head on one of the things I was going to talk about. You can see what the GSs and these kind of people make for some of these jobs. And I think there is a necessity for a hard hiring push. I would like to see a blend of both where we try to increase the numbers and bring this number down, which is like 500,000 open jobs down some. But I would also like to see some of this initiative and forward thinkingness in the restructuring of the pay scale for the GSs, especially to compete with the private industry and the contract industry in this world, right? Attract better talent, attract talent that wants to stay in the longevity, get people that do want to be patriots, but inflation's so high, the cost of living is so high that they can't, give up what they're doing and go this route and potentially stay 20 years when, they got kids to feed, they're trying to get a house, they're trying to put themselves forward and their family forward as well. It's not feasible. So I would have wished to seen some of this forward thinking kind of go that route than just like, hey, let's reduce the numbers to the 500,000 jobs that are open right now and get people into this market, which is an ever growing market. And the second point I wanted to make that, kind of gets me a little worrisome too, they start blending IT and cyber too much in the conversation of this article. And that's probably always, that is always coming from the government. And I think they've had a problem with kind of rightfully so identifying what the skill sets are for the needs and then understanding that this is either management or an IT systems need for better IT infrastructures. And hey, this is what cybersecurity actually does. And these are where we're lacking in different agencies and industries. And then, hey, this is information security or for information assurance, compliance. And this is where the skill set and there's a drop in what we're offering or the skill set that's lacking in these departments. I still see a little bit of kind of a blending of everything a little bit too much. And I don't know where that's coming from really in the government. Maybe it's just a message that's getting missed and given off to the news people in this case where they're doing these articles, or there's a skewing of the message from the top down. But now maybe I'm just reading too much into this article, Ryan. What do you think?
No, I think you are pulling at some threads there. But please like, share, subscribe. All the things I always forget to say. I think we're nearing 532 subscribers, so we're doing really good. We picked up like 30 subscribers over the past month. And then please check out our newsletter. So we're over 1,500 subs, a really good read rate. We try to have a really good blend of here's what we talked about throughout the week, but here's some new stuff, right? Behind the scenes, slice of life type things. And then if you like to advertise on the podcast, please hit me up at the other side of the firewall. The other side of the FW at gmail.com. We can get you a pre-roll, end roll, or mid-roll ad in there as well. Because, like I said, our subscriber base is growing. So we have, hundreds of subs listening to us. We have hundreds of subs watching us. So you're in a really good place. And we have downloads of almost 1,000 per month on average. And this month we're going to break that. For whatever reason, we were kind of soaring at the beginning of the month. So with all that out of the way, so my thing is, yes, I'm glad to see that the government's doing it. I think they need to get more people. They should drop the degree requirement. Like it should be based on experience and then applicable certs, depending on what level they're hiring at. Like to ask for certs, experience, and degrees, and you're not paying what the private sector is paying, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not going to get any applicants. Then you'll be like, why is nobody applying? Well, because you're asking for the moon. And again, I've heard that there are incentives if you sign on with the government, right? There's sign-on bonuses. There's I've heard of like some kind of cyber type of cost of living increase for certain areas, things of that nature. So they do incentivize. However, that's not the way it's advertised. So when people see that pay scale and where they could potentially start at, and you're asking for everything in the moon, they're going to look for a job in the private sector, or they're going to come in as a contractor. It just pays better. So I think they're doing themselves a disservice by asking for so much for every single position. Like the degree thing, if necessary, should be tied to specific titles or roles, and then from there, like, do they need all of the certs because they have the degree, and vice versa? Do they need the degree if they have all these certs? Like, how much experience do they have? If you're trying to use the military pipeline to draw people in, then you're getting lots of experience. So do they necessarily need all of the other stuff to go along with it? So I just think they need to think it through a little bit more if they are trying to fill the roles. Like they're saying it's a sprint. but you're kind of hampering everybody out of the gate. So, but that's just my 2 cents.
So the cybersecurity bump thing, I haven't heard that. I know they do it for like the area that you live in. Like you'll get a different like cost of living. I don't want to call it COLA, right? Because they're they're not military, but you get a different cost of living bump, right? Depending on the area you live in. But yeah, if they're doing that for cyber, I mean that's a step in the right direction. I know with that NH scale, they don't exactly put it to where step 1, step 2, all the way through 10 or whatever it goes to in the GS.
Yeah.
They have a pay band is what they call it, right? So like in this band, depending on what you have, this is where you can go up to. And honestly, I haven't looked at it to see if you're an NH, 4, it's this much more than what it used to be for the GS scale. But I know like for some of the people that are doing like the job that I'm doing as an ISO, like they're like GS 12 step 3, and I'm like, oh man, like okay, I'm leaving a little bit on the table, you know what I mean? But again,
but it's not flat throughout all the agencies, which is weird. But there are cyber incentive pays for IT and cyber. You'll see for some of the positions, depending location, and for some of the agencies, but it's not throughout the whole DoD. Because I've known people that go ahead. I've known people that I worked with alongside that were GSs, and they were trying to convince me to go in through that agency, and they would say, this is the pay, but you also get this. And one of the things they would allude to is also you get the cyber or IT incentive pay on top of that. But it was more for overseas, and you would see it stateside, which was weird too.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. Like, what are the locations? Like, is it offered, like, not necessarily in DoD? Is it mostly the 3 letters that are doing it, right? Because of the missions that they have to keep. You know what I mean? Like, I would see it all, but really only I would even see it overseas, even like stateside overseas, like Hawaii, or overseas in Asia Pacific, but not mainland US, which is kind of counterproductive too, because you're trying to attract talent no matter where the talent is, right? But another thing to think about also, and this happens a lot also even in the private industry, a lot of these stipulation for requirements, even in the private side, is set at the corporate level, mostly also by HR. So when the qualifications come down, when we were trying to hire for like an SA and ISO position in my previous job, I had to sit down and we had to like fine tune the job requirements before submitting, because some of the stuff was kind of like either didn't really fit kind of the position we wanted, or we were kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because they were like, it was an entry level position, but we were asking for like, a bachelor's degree. But why do we want a bachelor's degree for someone that like it was not even a full sysadmin? We just needed them to be like a help desk person, vice versa, things like that. You see it in the DoD as well, kind of like these. I don't know if it's because these things have been created such a long time ago that they're not updated, or they're trying to match private industry, which also kind of goes counterproductive because you're the government. You can be more flexible. You can kind of be more agile on like how you go fish out these applicants. So I think you hit a good point on the head, Ryan, with what you said. Kind of like the certs and degree is kind of killing them right now.
Right, and I'm not bashing either or, right? So I transparency, I have all the above, but mine was funded by the Department of Defense, right? Like a lot of people decide to not go into debt necessarily because like I have the experience, I have the proper certification. So I think you just have to kind of, if you're looking for talent, you have to go where the talent's at. And if they're not necessarily doing the trifecta, all 3, then where are you going to get these people from? So I would just say that I think a little bit more market research, I guess, should be taken into account, because these blanket requirements are definitely not going to do them any favors. So, but that's just my 2 cents. So hopefully they fill the roles. Like their suspense is pretty short, or is this for next fiscal year? Like, are they trying to fill it before the fiscal year ends, or is it for next fiscal year?
I thought it said this fiscal year, like to end this
okay.
So
year. So it really is a sprint. Hey, we need these 3. And I'm not saying that. So there probably are 3,000 people who do fit the bill, but then are you advertising to them, right? That's the other thing. Are you going to where they're actually be able to view and see these things, and are you enticing them? Because I would put in the incentives as well. I'll let them know, like not only look at this scale, but at this scale plus these things, depending on where you're at. Do the math.
So that part I think they have down. So they referenced it in the article, and we didn't touch on it, but they've done like as far back as 2 years ago, they were talking about apprenticeships for this, right? Like it's mentioned in the article if you click on the link. So I think they know where to go. It's just a matter of making it attractive to them. Like, what are you going to do, right? Like again, they, like you were talking about, like when the DoD is funding the degree, it's not a problem, right? There's certain things you still have
Right.
to do, right? But you have no financial obligation to pay it back, right? Like unless you fail a class, then they're like, give us our money back, right? But like,
Right.
no, seriously, but like for them, yeah, like I mean, there are people that I've worked with people that are like six figures in debt for student debt, and it's just like, wow, man,
Yeah.
that's a lot, you know. And not everybody wants to go that route.
Right, exactly. Especially now with things being so tight, and then just the transparency people are seeing, like during this layoff wave, really shook up the hiring versus employer, so employer versus employee market. Right, a lot of truth was made very visible. So people are like, why would I do this if we're not really a family? Is what they advertise, because they'll cut me in a second. So why am I incurring all this debt? Why am I doing all these things? So I hear it's really hard for recruiters right now, because it's kind of like people no longer have the wool over their eyes. So hey, it is what it is. So I would just say, just make it as enticing as possible to get these people in. So if you need to drop a couple of requirements, I would, because I don't believe that you'll be necessarily diminishing the talent. Like the paramount is experience. So long as they have the requisite experience, then it's a matter of, do they have the certifications to be on the network and the capacity that they're currently working? And then if they're going to be in management, do they have whatever applicable degree if necessary, right? Senior management. Then I can kind of get away with that. But I've worked with senior managers that don't have degrees, right? They just have decades of experience, and that's really all that should matter. But it is what it is. We'll see what next fiscal year looks like, right? Because then there'll be the shakeup of will it be the current administration or new administration, and then even the current administration is like 1.5, right? It'll be slightly different because the VP will go from VP to president if she were to be elected. So even that, so pretty much there'll be two new administrations. So we'll see how they either or shakes out once everybody goes to the polls. Make sure you vote. Make sure your voice is heard. But I digress. Please continue to check out the episode, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We've been, again, this month we're really soaring. I don't know exactly why. I can never figure it out, but I greatly appreciate it. So keep it up. And then hit up all the websites to go by our name, The Other Side of the Firewall, The Other Side of the FW, or Ask a CISSP. Hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on all the socials. And where can they find you, Daniel?
Find me on LinkedIn under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.